So did you know this about Quant? Even though nothing I say is financial advice, on April 21st, Gilbert Verdian, who by the way is the founder and CEO of Quant, he's going to be a speaker at allegedly the flagship event of the UK FinTech Week 2026. And again, it's going to be 21st of April 2026. Now, I think this right here is pretty interesting because if I take a look at that right there, people like to say, oh, wow, Gilbert, who really cares about what he's doing anymore and all this? But I feel like he's still at least somewhat relevant, right? When I take a look at Quant overall, I don't think it's a useless project. So even having allegedly the CEO and founder of Quant being a speaker at an event, I think it may showcase that Quant is still being recognized in a way where it isn't completely useless like that. Because some people out there like to say, oh, because Quant has had such a massive pullback, it's done for, it's cooked. But I kind of disagree with that because as of right now, a lot of projects are having a pullback. It's not only just Quant. So it's not like this is the only one experiencing it. Furthermore, Quant actually in the past 30 days, the recovery has been almost 12%. So not the best, but it's not the worst either. At least I did see a little bit of a recovery. And the thing is, when it comes to Quant, people like to tell me that, oh, this project is going to go out of style. They like to say that to me. They like to say that it's just going to become irrelevant because the use case isn't strong enough. But I disagree with that actually, because if my kind of perception is that this space might hypothetically see improvements, if this space overall might see more developers moving forward, more apps, let's say, appear. If let's say that is the case, that would only kind of maybe hypothetically increase the adoption when it comes to Quant. The reason why is because the Quant network, we see it be made up of the Overledger OS and the Overledger network. Did you know that the Overledger OS allows something called a multi-chain application to be built? And as the name goes, it's an application that is built on top of multiple blockchains instead of just one. Again, hence the name multi-chain application. The thing is this, if a developer does not have to be stuck building on only just one blockchain, that's pretty revolutionary in my opinion. Maybe it doesn't have the best adoption of all time as of right now, but if more developers, more people enter into this space and they see something like that and they're trying to make apps that aren't only tied to just one blockchain, that may hypothetically be a solution. Who knows? So I feel like Quant is more equipped than some other projects out there, in some cases, arguably, in terms of having that sort of evergreen, I guess, model in a way where other projects out there, their sort of business model is to kind of chase a trend or let's say something that is cool or interesting at that time. But if the trend or the hype is no longer there anymore, what happens? Then the project sometimes is a little bit cooked. But if I take a look at something like Quant, which is literally centered around, in my opinion, probably helping developers build applications maybe through the Overledger OS, in a sense, that's the way I would take a look at it. Wouldn't that only mean that as the space grows overall, maybe it would only be a net positive when it comes to Quant? Because literally, again, if there's more people looking to build apps, wouldn't the Overledger OS be right there just waiting? That's the way to take a look at it. Now, granted, the way Quant is kind of designed, in my opinion at least, when the market is having a pullback, it just kind of amplifies the sort of sentiment in a more, I guess, non-positive way. In a sense where, if we take a look at this, usually when the market is having a pullback, what happens? Developers, usually they don't want to build things. But Quant is kind of centered around, multi-chain applications and stuff like that, primarily speaking, in my opinion. So of course, naturally, when a lot of people are not entering, when they're not really building anything, a project that's centered around maybe catering towards developers and stuff like that, it just wouldn't really see the best adoption. And yet at the same time, the charts are going down. So I get the sentiment when it comes to Quant. But usually what happens when the market picks up again? A lot of developers, sometimes they want to enter back in, they want to start building things, and the Overledger OS is right there. So again, the way Quant is, it just makes it so that it's a little bit pro-cyclical in a way where it's like heavily tied to, cycles, right? When the market isn't doing the best, usually there's not that many developers wanting to enter, and it kind of impacts Quant in a more intense way. But if the market picks up again, a lot of developers start entering back in, and let's say the sentiment is there again and the charts are maybe moving in a positive direction, it just kind of amplifies it a little bit more. So Quant is, I think, kind of designed in a way where it just amplifies ether movements. So again, sometimes the downwards movements feels a little bit intense. That's the way you take a look at it. But to me, this space overall, it's not gold, it's not the S&P 500, so of course sometimes movements like this, they feel a bit more intense, but to me that's kind of what I opted to choose anyways. I could have just dollar cost averaged into gold, but I didn't want to do that. Personally, I am dollar cost averaging once a month in this space because I like the space overall. I haven't given up, and sure, the downwards movement sometimes is a little bit intense, but what happens if there's a recovery? That's the way to take a look at it. Some other markets out there, if it recovers, maybe it's like 5-10%. And that's already considered sometimes very legendary. I mean, in some other markets, around a 10% movement in the past 30 days would have been considered fantastic. In some cases, not in every single case, but I'm just saying. When it comes to quant, the recovery has literally been almost 12% in the past 30 days. That's the thing. But that's not even considered good within this space, right? Keep in mind, quant in the past 365 days, in the past year basically, it's actually up around 9%, which I get it. There's been a big pullback because at one point we were almost at $140. Now we're around $70. So again, still a pretty big pullback. But at the same time, if it hypothetically recovers back to that point, I'm going to Sizzler. That's the way to take a look at it. I think it's become so normalized sometimes within the space that if a project doesn't do like 200, 300% or whatever, it's considered cooked. And like a 10% recovery or 20% recovery is considered bad in some cases. But if for other markets, that's considered really good, why would that be considered like bad in this case? Especially if it could maybe return back to a previous point. I mean, imagine if Quant went back to around $140, which we literally saw just last year. Almost, right? Almost $140, I should say. I'm going to Sizzler at that point. That's the way I view it because we're around $70 as of right now. Sometimes a 2x is a 2x. So when people have to say, oh, if Quant went back to around $140, almost $140, right? They like to say, wow, it's so bad. But to me, like, why would I consider that bad? That's my point of view. If I wouldn't consider it bad in other markets, I wouldn't consider it bad here. Now, of course, if there was an actual hypothetical altcoin season, I'd be happier. But I don't need a hypothetical altcoin season to be happy. If Quant goes back to around $140, I'm already really happy anyways because throughout this time I've been dollar cost averaging once a month. So if it could just go back to that point, I'm going to Sizzler. But I am not telling anyone to do anything. This is just my personal perspective as of right now. But I thought that recent update, again, seeing Gilbert Verdian, who's the founder and CEO of Quant, who's allegedly going to be attending the flagship event of UK FinTech Week 2026, I find that to be pretty impressive. And again, that's allegedly on the 21st of April, 2026. So yeah, I just think it's really cool. However, I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward if there are any. So hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. I just want to say thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.